Hey guys, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about all things shedding. So if you've got a crispy boy or crispy girl, or you're just planning ahead, keep watching. Okay, so let's just jump straight into it and talk about what are the signs that your gecko is about to shed. Now, the most obvious sign is that they get pretty pale, which can sometimes be difficult to tell depending on the morph or even the species of gecko. As I must admit, I often miss live or drogo, my crested gecko and my chihuahua, molting or shedding because they fire up and fire down so much and they shed so quickly, it is just so easy to miss. Whereas Maui here, as you can see, he's quite white. You'll also notice that the nose is oftentimes the last thing to go white, and strangely enough, sometimes it's the first thing to peel back. It's almost like a banana. But more often than not, you'll see the old skin behind their legs rip. You may also notice they'll rub against things like hides or different textures in their tank, though this does tend to occur when they're literally molting. Another thing that can occur over the shedding period is geckos may go off of their food, sometimes pre-shed, sometimes post-shed. Likely babies are going to go off food after they shed because they eat all of their skin, and I guess that could fill them up. So if your baby gecko stops eating after it's just molted, that is quite normal. Some geckos like Maui here will happily still eat. He does not lose his appetite, but I would refrain from feeding the geckos whilst they're like mid-shed. Now in this scenario, I could tell that Maui's likely going to shed tonight over the evening. And he did. By the next morning, he was completely clear of skin. But because he hadn't actively ripped the skin or was ready to actually take that off, he wasn't trying to eat his skin or anything like that, I knew that I could feed him and I knew he was getting the food. It wasn't going to become an irritant. But yes, if you see your gecko actively shedding, just don't worry about putting any food in there. So if you see your gecko is about to shed, what should you have in the enclosure, or what should you do to the enclosure to ensure you are prepared and you are providing the optimal environment for them? Let's start off with a shedding hide. So this can be a cave-like hide that you just mist down when you see your gecko's about to shed. It can contain deep substrate, moss. If you are just sticking to paper towel, you can dampen the paper towel. People will debate whether to place this hide in the tank. I'd say somewhere in the middle of the warm and the cold hide, and I'd keep it away from anywhere that they tend to go to the toilet. Now, the hide is extremely important if you are using something like reptile carpet or paper towel or tile, as I imagine the environment can be quite dry. A cave that I've used in the past is this Exoterra one. This one's actually really handy because you can put some damp substrate in there. If you don't want it all over your tank, you can just keep it contained in there, and it works really well. Now, in my experience, I've always found that although I will provide a moist hide, my geckos tend to just use the entire tank. So I've kind of ditched just having that specific hide. Now, I use Earth Mix Arid as a substrate. I have a deep heat projector. The combination of those two, as well as just misting the substrate, has worked perfectly for the last few years. Like, my geckos have really good molts. Now, when you mist that, if you're going to do the same as me, you don't want to go too heavy, you're not watering the soil, you're just having this light mist over the top. And combined with a textured background and cork and even slate, it really helps them remove this skin. Now, of course, leopard geckos are known to need lower humidity. However, in the wild, when a gecko is about to molt, they would seek out a higher humidity environment, so they could be burrowing down, and some of these burrows can go up to like 90% humidity. Environmental factors aside, providing the correct supplements will also allow your gecko to successfully shed. We'll get onto problem shedders in a moment and how to avoid this, but just make sure you are supporting your animal from the inside out. Now, the next question is, when do they tend to shed? Like, you might be thinking, I have never seen my gecko shed. Why is this? And this is because usually they do it in the middle of the night when nobody is looking. And then the thing is, they eat all the evidence. They eat all the skin. So you might just see one day you think, oh, they look a bit pale, and the next day they look brighter, and you're like, what happened here? So if you do feel like you haven't seen them, don't be surprised. They are quite secretive about it. Okay, so your gecko has shed, and now you want to do a post-shed check. You want to make sure all of that skin has been taken off. And as you can see, Maui had a great shed, nothing to remove here. Now, it is common sometimes to get skin stuck on toes. So it's really important though to remove those, because over time they can cut off circulation, the toes can turn black and then drop off. The same can occur in extreme cases on the legs, on the tail. So if there is stuck shed, we want to help remove it. I would say after like 12 or 24 hours after they've shed, if they are just not even bothering trying to remove it, then you have to step in and help them. Interestingly enough, I was recently contacted by a patron who was concerned because their gecko's toes had black marks on it, and the owner thought that maybe it was losing circulation, had lost circulation, will the toes drop off? They'd gone over it with a wet Q-tip, like nothing was coming off. Why are they black? Then they sent me a photo and I realised that's the morph. That is the gecko's markings. So this is fine. So as you can tell, very different scenarios, but it is good that that keeper was aware of this, was, double checking that they hadn't done anything wrong. But yeah, geckos' feet can have all kinds of markings on. They can also be really white. Diego has quite white feet as well, and that can cause problems when you're like, is that stuck shed or is it not? Something that can be really handy to use is a USB microscope. I use it, it's really handy, you can use it for all sorts of things, but with gecko's toes, if you really can't see if there's skin stuck on there, then you can use that. I'll link that below. But other than that, you can go across with a damp Q-tip. If nothing's peeling up, it's likely not on there, but, just be vigilant. Other ways to remove skin is to use a little damp bit of paper towel. You can use tweezers or your own fingernails. I prefer using my fingernails just because I know how much or how little pressure I'm applying, and I just feel like I can always tell if I've actually got the skin. I'm not going to pull anything out. Now for problem shedders. Not, if your gecko is constantly having poor sheds, like there's always something left, there's always a whole leg or bits on their head, or it's not going well, then I would recommend checking that you are providing enough humidity when they are about to shed, that they are hydrated and they're getting the correct nutrition and diet. If you saw the video where I reacted to that TikTok of that poor gecko covered in skin, you'll know that they said that a lot of the issues were down to a lack of vitamins. Now, here's what I use alongside a UV system with my geckos. It really works fabulous. As I said, a combination of the Earth Mix Arid and the Deep Heat Projector as well, and just mist in that tank. Like, the last few years, I barely had a problem. Sure, they might get tiny little bits on the toes every now and again, but other than that, nothing. Now, if you're not using a UV system, just make sure you're providing not only calcium, but also a vitamin and mineral powder that contains D3. Now, every now and again, you can have your gecko has a weird shed. Sometimes they take off the skin almost too early and it looks kind of shiny or wet. And then that skin will eventually heal and kind of go a white greyish colour. And it can take a few molts to make it get back to normal. Gizmo once had a really weird shed. It may have been during the time of egg laying, which would make more sense because she wouldn't be eating. Her vitamins and mineral supplies were probably down. And if I remember correctly, it took maybe 2 or 3 molts after that for her to get back to normal, for all the layers to come off at once. So these things can happen. Minnie once took off too many layers on her nose and it went white. It took about 2 months to heal. Once again, these 2 cases are documented and I will link them below. Obviously, I've owned geckos for 16 or 17 years. I've been filming for the last decade. So I've seen it all and there's a lot of it documented. So if it helps, check out those videos below. But yeah, I hope this video has helped and hopefully it gives you an idea of things that can happen before, during and after shedding. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But thank you for watching, guys, and goodbye.